Giggly Gorilla Studios coming at you live from the trees of Gotham City. And I'm Braden. With me, as per usual, is Everest. I feel like we've been in Gotham before. We're back though.
Yeah, well, you know what? The few trees that are in Gotham have always been good to us. Always feels good to be hanging out here and talking some Gotham City, talking some Batman. What's up, bro?
Yeah, I'm excited. Not too much. I'm finally off today. Sure.
Let's go. We
Yeah,
love that. I just got off work like a little bit ago.
yeah, but we're here
And
to celebrate 35
yeah.
years of Batman 1989. It's kind of insane that it's been
Mm.
35.
Yeah, this is what I brought up right when we got on the call. I was like, 35 years is such a crazy number. Although I think contextually it does make sense. Like, this movie feels like a late 80s movie. And obviously we'll get into the movie, but it's just crazy. Like, 35 years of Batman 1989. It makes us feel old, even though neither of us were alive when this movie came out.
Yeah, I think both of us have just seen this movie so many times throughout our lives. Because I feel
Yeah,
like I've probably at least seen it. I feel like I watch it every year at this point. I pretty much know I do because if I haven't watched it by the time I watch Batman Returns, I watch Batman Returns every Christmas. I'll watch Batman 89 before or after Batman Returns. But I probably won't do
yeah.
that this year since I watched it, now for the 35th anniversary.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this movie a lot. This was, I think, the first live action Batman movie I ever watched because I mean, the Dark Knight trilogy had been out, at least the first two, when I was like getting into Batman and getting old enough to watch like live action superhero movies, but my mom loved the Michael Keaton Batman, and so these were the first ones she showed me. So I'm pretty sure this is the first live action Batman that I saw, and what a way to be introduced to the character in live action.
This was probably the first one I saw as well. I'm not sure if it was this one or maybe Batman Forever or Batman and Robin. I know it was one of those because
That
I
would be
watched.
crazy.
Well, I watched one of those four or one of those three because I watched Batman Returns after all of them because Batman Returns low key kind of freaked me out as a kid.
Dude, it's a scary movie. Like, some of that's pretty messed up. I mean, that's like Tim Burton in his full on bag at his most Tim Burton-y. That movie's kind of creepy. But yeah, I remember my mom got me, it was like the full set of the four like 80s 90s Batman movies at like Walmart when I was like 8 years old or whatever. So it had Batman, Batman Returns, Forever, and Batman and Robin, and I watched them all in order. And I was very confused when Val Kilmer showed up in the third one because I was like 9 and I didn't know how movies worked back then.
Yeah, I didn't get the DVD set until later on, like late elementary school or maybe even middle school, and I got the Blu-ray set eventually, probably like in high school. So I own
Yeah.
it on two different platforms, but and I never watched them because they're streaming, so why go through the trouble of loading up a Blu-ray when I can just open Max?
Open up Max. That's what I did too.
Yeah, but no, it's definitely these four movies were the first one. Well, aside from maybe Batman Returns, were the first Batman movies I ever saw because I saw all these movies before The Dark Knight even came out, and I don't think I saw Batman Begins until I think I saw Batman Begins maybe before The Dark Knight came out too, but I remember Batman Begins, like Batman Returns, kind of freaking me out as a kid. Like Scarecrow freaked me out in that movie.
Okay, that's valid. Why are you scared of Batman Begins but Scarecrow? That makes sense. I watched I watched the Dark Knight trilogy for the first time when I was probably like 10, I think. So maybe a year or two after I'd watched these first movies because I just
Jesus.
grew up watching like the Batman animated show and Batman
Oh
animated
yeah, yeah.
series and Justice League and all that. So
I
it
remember
took me a
watching the
while to,
Batman as it was airing. Oh my God.
bro. Oh my God, what a show!
Yeah, I
What a
loved it.
show!
So good. Does not get
So
enough
so good.
credit.
It really doesn't. I should probably rewatch that show again. It's been like maybe a year or two now since I have, and I love it. I love going back to it,
Yeah, there's a lot of rewatchable Batman shows out there. A lot of rewatchable movies too.
including this one, Batman 1989.
Yeah, this movie's just it's so rewatchable. Like every time I watch this movie, it never feels old, even though like I said earlier, I watch it like every year at this point. But it's never like a task
Yeah.
to watch it. I'm like, you know what? I just want to watch a movie I enjoy. Batman '89.
Yeah, dude, we've been on a bit of a hot streak with like movies I've had to rewatch. It's like, oh no, I have to rewatch The Nice Guys, which I love. Oh no, I have to rewatch Mad Max Fury Road, like one of the coolest movies of the 2010s. Oh no, I have to rewatch Batman. Like we're killing it out here. But no, it's super rewatchable. Um, Turned it right back on last night, and honestly, I think for me, one of the big parts is just the atmosphere that like Tim Burton creates for Gotham. Just sucks you in. Like that combined with Danny Elfman's score.
Oh
Once you
my
put this
God.
thing on again, and it's like the opening credits and the score is playing, and it brings you into Gotham, dude. It's just so cool and so well done, and I love it. Like I'm sat from the first couple minutes.
Yeah, you think the score and Prince's soundtrack wouldn't like complement each other like they do, but they just do because it's like the score is so complementary to Batman, but the Prince soundtrack is almost complementary to the Joker, so it's like the contrast
Hmm.
between the score and the soundtrack or the contrast between Batman and the Joker, and it just like it all blends so well together and just I'm
It,
sure people in
it's great.
1989 are like, why is Prince making a soundtrack for a Batman movie? Like, what? Especially people that were familiar with Batman, like in the comics, because we were talking a little before we started recording that, like, obviously everyone knows, like, Batman on screen, like, this was the first time people had seen the darker version of Batman, the darker
Hmm.
take on his world. But that was a
Yeah.
thing in the comics a little beforehand, which is probably why it translated to screen. Like that's kind of we were talking about Batman 66. That's what it was because the comics were kind of that at the time. And then mid 80s, like just such a drastic shift happened where Batman was dark and serious with Killing Joke, Dark Knight Returns, and then we get Batman 89.
Yeah, Batman '89 with the Prince soundtrack. No, that is a good point though. That like Prince is usually played for the Joker in this movie, and it does work so well because you have Elfman's score, which by the way we can talk about it even more as we get into it. But just one of the all time great comic book scores and just film scores, um, in general, all time. One of my favorite for sure. I remember hearing it all the time playing the Lego Batman game, which they brought it back for. It just
Oh my god,
embodies
yes.
Batman.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
I
so glad they brought it back for the Lego games and just like Batman the Animated Series, even the opening to that was like it's not exactly Elfman's store, but it's very derivative
it's
of that.
inspired, heavily
Yeah.
inspired. Yeah,
And that's like those are the two pieces of music I just hear when I think of Batman. I hear the Batman 89 and Batman Returns scores, and I hear the Batman the Animated Series theme. And it's all yeah, it's Elfman or Elfman inspired.
yeah. It's great. It's what I think of when I think of Batman too. I love. I mean, Hans Zimmer did great work for the Nolan trilogy, and then I think Michael Giacchino's score for the Batman is really solid as well, and does about as good a job as you can do creating like a new Batman score for the modern day. But I don't think anything's ever going to top Elfman's because it's just so iconic and it fits the character to a T, especially in these movies, in this environment. So yeah, it's just great. And then you've got Prince tracks on this, which I also love Prince. He's one of my favorite artists. So anytime I get to watch this and hear Party Man or any of the Trust when Joker's going through the town, it's always fun. So yeah, great music. I don't know why that's the first thing we chose to talk about, but I mean, Elfman's score is one of the more prominent features that I think of when I think of this movie. So
Oh, most definitely. Like it's like we said, it's kind of it is the Batman score. Like it just
yeah,
embodies that character. And it makes this movie in a lot of ways. Like I think the score just elevates the film as a whole.
I agree with that. It does, as any like great all-time film score does. It carries you through the movie. Not that the movie needs carrying, but it definitely elevates it all to another level. But I guess if you want to just get into, we can get into the plot or everything else the movie has going on. One thing that I always kind of forget that I love for this movie is how the opening and the introduction of Batman is first staged like the murder of Bruce Wayne's parents. So
Yeah.
it like feels like that, but you don't really know. But then the characters are different names, like the dad's calling the son Jimmy or whatever, and then it turns out that it's not that, and Batman's there to kind of stop something like that from happening. I think it's a really cool twist to open the movie because it's still like as we've gone on, we've gotten Batman movies that have kind of opened with the murder of Bruce Wayne's parents, and so for it to start like this, and then it's like a psych is not actually the origin story yet, I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's showing like a parallel to Batman's origin, and then you actually get the introduction of Batman. It's almost, I guess it's almost saying like, hey, this is why Batman's Batman to stop things like this.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it works great. Obviously, everyone knows the Michael Keaton I'm Batman and the introduction. It's just so cool, dude. When he descends from the sky and his cape's out, I'm like, yeah, that's Batman.
I want you to
I
tell all
already
your
love it.
friends about me. What are you? So good. It's so
Yeah.
good.
It's so good. It's a great introduction. It lets us see a little bit of the city. It introduces us to Batman right off the bat. Although I will say it's kind of interesting because we see Batman in his full on suit and he does the introduction right away. And then we don't see him for a while again in this movie. It kind of shifts more to the city and Joker and Bruce Wayne. It's like I think 30 minutes go by almost without seeing Batman in the suit again, which I always kind of forget, but it's paced well, so it's not an issue, but definitely interesting.
Yeah, there's more Jack Napier than I remember because obviously before he's the Joker, he's Jack Napier, but there's a lot of
Hmm.
pre Joker than I remember. And I'm like, dang, it takes us a minute to get to the excess chemical scene actually.
It does, yeah. That's one thing I wrote down is like, although obviously just overall I'm a big fan of this movie and I'll always love it. It'll have a special place in my heart. It does take a while to really get going into what you'd expect from like a conventional comic book movie or Batman movie. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but like you were saying, we get a lot of Jack Napier. We get the introduction of Vicky Vale and her and the reporter and or the journalist and them trying to figure out what's going on. Although they are like mentioning Batman all throughout this time as kind of this like mystical figure, which I do think is cool, but it takes a little bit to get into the real like story going on here.
Yeah, I like that at the Wayne Manor banquet scene, they bring up like Bruce's time in Japan because I feel like that's something a lot of Batman movies just kind of skip over because obviously he did train a lot in Japan in a lot of adaptations and versions of the character.
Yeah, I think that moment's cool. I think it's so funny when Vicky like taps on his shoulder and asks who's Bruce Wayne. And he's like, I don't know. Like, why does he not just tell her? It's like, what is he doing? But
Michael Keaton's Bruce
obviously,
Wayne is like if I was Batman, like I'd be so like awkward about it.
yeah. That's the thing is this Bruce Wayne and this Michael Keaton performance feels it does feel a little bit awkward and a little bit like not as social, not as in the public eye playboy as Christian Bale would later do. But I love it. Michael Keaton's long been if not my favorite like live action Batman right at the top of the list. I think he's excellent. And that moment right away is just he's like I'm not sure which one is Bruce Wayne. Bro, you're literally Bruce Wayne.
Then they're like looking at it and it's like I don't remember what Knox asked, but he asked something about like where is this from? And he's like Japan, and he's like, how would you know? Because I bought it in Japan.
I I bought it from there myself. He's like, "Who are you again?" I'm Bruce Wayne.
And Vicky Vale's so like, are you sure? Yeah,
Yeah, are you sure
now
this
I'm sure.
time? It's a great moment.
And that's where you get the I don't know why. I think it's because I listen to Batman podcasts and they bring it up a lot, but just the six is good. That line from Knox is so memorable for me.
Yeah, that's a fun one. There's lots of like little quirky lines in this. Like I know when I think it's Eckhart is talking to the rest of the police or whatever about or the kind of the crooks or whatever about killing Jack Napier on orders from the crime boss. He's like, shoot to kill, if you know what I mean. Like what else would he mean by shoot to
Yeah.
kill? It
What
makes
else would
no
you mean?
sense.
Like, are you trying to mean something that's not the literal meaning of that?
Yeah. He literally says shoot to kill, and then he's like, if you know what I mean. Like, what? And
Yeah.
that made me laugh.
And what before Grissom sends Jack out to this, he's like, Jack, you're my number one guy. And don't forget your
Yeah.
lucky deck. So he's even got like some Joker traits before he actually becomes the Joker.
Yeah, he's got the cards. He's looking at the Joker cards. He's wearing purple suits. It's all foreshadowed before, which I do like. It just, especially for like comic book fans who know, that was probably really cool. And yeah, obviously the movie really gets going once we get to Axis Chemicals and Jack falls in and he gets to become the Joker. Because then Jack Nicholson just really gets to shine. He's, I would say, the best performance in this movie, even though I love Keaton. Um, Heath Ledger, may have one upped him later on, but for this version of this Joker, Nicholson's perfect. He's one of the great actors of all time, and I'm so happy we have him in this role.
Yeah, he's like very much playing like just a classic Joker, and I'd say like Heath is almost more of like the anarchist, just borderline psychotic Joker, even though he claims he's not crazy.
Yeah,
But yeah, so there are like two different takes on the Joker, but both very much the Joker. So I'm glad we have both performances, both great Joker performances. And then Joaquin's like
yeah.
even a he's a different Joker than those two Jokers. Like
He's a
we
different Joker and still excellent, dude. We're
yeah.
so blessed. Like
Oh yeah, we are blessed as Batman fans to have all these great
literally,
adaptations and
like
takes
three
on
of
Batman
three of the most
and the Joker.
yeah, God, dude, three of the most talented actors, like maybe to ever do it. Obviously, his life and career was sadly cut short, but the body of work that he had already had doing Brokeback Mountain, being famous for other stuff, and then Nicholson's clearly like one of the greats, and Joaquin, kind of both of our favorite actor working right now. He's just excellent in everything he does. We're so spoiled.
Yeah, I love yeah, I wonder if they called Joker gave him the name Jack Napier in this just because it was Jack Nicholson. Like, we're still gonna call you Jack.
Dude, that happens in like multiple Jack Nicholson movies. His name is Jack in The Shining. I
Yeah,
think there's
Jack
another movie where his first
Jack
name's Jack.
Torrance,
They
right?
just Torrance, yeah. They just were not getting creative with his character names back in the day.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. They're like, well, we've got Jack Nicholson. What should we name his character? I don't know, just keep it as Jack. All right.
I have always wondered because I'm pretty sure in like the original script for this movie, Access Chemicals was Ace Chemicals, which obviously if you know Batman, you know it's supposed to be Ace Chemicals, but I've always wondered why did they
Yeah.
change the name for the movie?
I don't know. I was wondering that too, especially knowing, like, yeah, that it was originally supposed to be Ace. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me just because Burton does show a pretty solid amount of like respect to comics and names and stuff. Like Harvey Dent is in this movie. He sticks to Commissioner Gordon. Like he gets a lot of the Batman mythos, at least in name, correct. So it's like, why would you change Ace Chemicals? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean he even does the like classic Joker origin, but it's and that happens in Ace Chemicals obviously, but like why do you change the name of it if you're gonna do like his origin anyway, like the Under the Red Hood classic?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but you know what? Tim Burton was on such a hot streak around this time period. He can do whatever he wants, man. I mean, late '80s to mid '90s, Burton is maybe one of the greatest director runs of
It's
all
so
time.
insane that Beetlejuice was 1988, then you got Batman in 1989, and 1990 was Edward Scissorhands. Like three
Edward Scissorhands.
fantastic freaking movies back to back to back years. It's like, bro, not many directors can pull that off.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then he does Ed Wood in '94, which has a lot of supporters. Some people think that's his best movie. He does Mars Attacks in 95 or 96.
Yeah, 96.
Which 96, I think that movie's super fun.
Oh,
So
it's so
Burton
fun.
was just he was cooking, dude.
Yeah, I was talking to that, me and a coworker were briefly talking about Mars Attacks the other day. I'm like, yeah, dude. Because I think we were talking about Jack Nicholson actually, and I was like, has Jack Nicholson played the president in anything that isn't Mars Attacks? I was like, Tim Burton I just love that movie. Tim Burton just did a great job in that. He's like, Tim Burton directed that? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, no wonder it was so good. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Tim Burton back then could not be touched, man.
He couldn't. I mean, yeah, like I was saying, one of the great director runs in the history of Hollywood, and I would say Batman, like this movie, although maybe not the best that he ever made, is sort of the catalyst of that era of Batman because this was the biggest movie that year. It was a blockbuster. It was everywhere, and everyone knew the name Tim Burton coming off of Beetlejuice and this.
So, I've also in the Access Chemicals scene, I do love Jack's reaction when he like first runs into Batman. He's like, "Whoa!" He's like terrified, kind of just caught off his guard. He's like, "Oh, you're real?"
Yeah, well, that's I love the constant like fear and just mystique of like who Batman is throughout Gotham. Like there are criminals, even midway, even towards the end of the movie, where like they shoot him and he's on the ground. It's at the towards the end of the chase scene with Vicky Vale, and they finally realize that he is human. They're like, that's some kind of body armor. He is human, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
like that constant just like myth of this character who is he a real bat, is he what is this thing, is awesome.
Yeah, so not long after this, we get some Bruce and Vicky stuff between, but the Joker like birth and reveal scene, like in the shop, it's so good,
Yeah,
and I think he gives a great laugh in that scene. The Joker laughs throughout are pretty
he
good.
does. The laugh is great. His performance is great. I love the where the doctor's starting to take off all the rap and then he just like does it himself. He's like, "No, stop," and just goes crazy with it. Um, yeah, Jack Nicholson is just unbelievable in this movie. Obviously, he's got some iconic moments. I'm sure we're going to talk about "This town needs an enema," one of the great lines in the history of cinema.
Oh, it's so good.
And
Like
his
once you hear that line, how can you ever forget it? Because it's
yeah,
like
it's
it's so random, but it somewhat fits the character of the Joker.
it fits perfectly, but it's still "This town needs an enema." Like, who would think of that? It's awesome. Um, his introduction finally as the Joker. It's another iconic scene with Grisham. Love it. He comes into the light from the shadows, and you get to see him in all his glory. I love the design choice for the Joker throughout this movie.
Yes, it's
All his
like
costuming and stuff is
Jack, you're
awesome.
alive. He's like, yes, I'm alive, and as you can see, I'm a lot more happy now.
A lot happier. Yeah,
Then he just shoots him up. Starts dancing as he's shooting.
he does. Oh man, I love it. I love how this Joker does strike like a pretty perfect balance between being legitimately scary because you do feel the sense that he's unhinged, he could do anything, and Jack Nicholson's vocal performance has just enough menace in it. But then he's also silly and dancing around and always like comic-y style Joker props are in full swing. Like when he takes out the 7 foot long gun out of his pants towards the end. Like that's ridiculous. I love
Or
it.
like the boardroom meeting with like all the gangsters that Joker walks into, and he just burns that dude alive with the joy buzzer,
Yeah.
and then he's talking to his burnt corpse after. He's like, "I'm glad you're dead."
Yeah.
Like,
It's great. I love there's when I think it's in the museum scene with Vicky, but it could be another scene when he's like, or Vicky's like, "You're insane," and he goes, "I thought I was a Pisces."
yeah. So after Joker kills Grissom, though, he like he just straight up takes his office, and he's just sitting there. He's watching something over Batman, or I think he's reading the paper actually, and he's like, "Winged freak terrorizes," and that's when you get the classic "Wait till they get a load of me." So, and that was used for like all the trailers back in the day.
Yeah, another just classic line. There's so many in this movie. Um,
I
I
always forget
like
how
how they
quotable of a movie it is until I start rewatching it. I'm
yeah,
just remembering like lines before they happen. I'm like, oh yeah, this movie is like it's so memorable with the dialogue.
crazy memorable dialogue. I really liked throughout the movie. One thing I noticed rewatching it this time is how they sell Joker not liking Batman and having issues with Batman in scenes like that where he's watching on the TV and Batman's either stealing his press or doing something to foil him, and you just get these moments where he's like, "Yeah, I hate him." Like there's a line where he's like, "I figured out what my pain is called, and it's Batman." Or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't remember the exact words, but that's something I just like to see where, you know, Joker has actual reasons for going up against Batman and not liking him, and it makes sense for this version of the characters.
And he's watching the news. That's like that's when we get this town needs an enema line. But he's like, "Can someone tell me what kind of town do we live in where a bat gets all my press? This town needs an
Yeah,
enema." And in the boardroom scene also, Joker when he fries the man alive, he says there will be a hot one in the cold town tonight. And Batman Returns, Catwoman says it's gonna be a hot time in a cold town tonight. So like almost like matching dialogue there.
that's cool. I don't know if I'd heard that before. That's sweet. I love that.
Yeah, well, no, so if you rewatch Batman Returns anytime soon, just watch out for that because yeah,
I'll have to look
I've
for
always
it.
found that interesting. I'm like, okay, is that like I feel like it's probably a reference to something else that I don't even know about, but I'm like, is that just a callback to 89 or was 89 already referencing something?
Right. I don't know, but I'll have to look out for that. I'll probably do the same thing you always do and watch Batman Returns around Christmas this year. But
Yeah. Oh, and Joker,
yeah.
of course, makes Bob his number one guy.
Right, that's what I was gonna mention when you brought that up. I was like, it gets called back, which I think is great. Trying to think what. Oh, I love the chase scene with Vicky Vale in this. I know that you always love a good car chase.
Oh yeah.
The Batmobile in this movie is iconic as well.
Oh,
Just
the
all the
Batmobile is so
production
beautiful.
design choices. It's so beautiful. This movie I brought up to you this morning. And I like just learned this last night. This movie won the Oscar for production design when it came out, which is really cool because I think people always talk about like Spider-Man 2 sort of as being like the first comic book movie to win an Academy Award. I think it won VFX or something. But to know that this won production design, it's deserved because the
I
Batmobile is
re
awesome. Gotham
I
looks great.
Ironically, I rewatched both of those movies like back to back because Spider-Man 2 is celebrating its 20-year anniversary this year, and me and Andrew are going to be talking about that. We may have already talked about it, I just haven't
Look
released
at
the
that.
episode yet. But yeah, no, it's I knew Spider-Man 2 had won something, I forget what for, but rightfully so, and
I
rightfully so for
yeah.
yeah, it's just the production design in this movie is beautiful.
It is beautiful. I love that chase scene. I love when he like puts the shields on the Batmobile and how that looks, and then it's like self-driving. And at the end of it all, it comes back to him, and then he just whispers into his like little walkie-talkie to it, "Stop!" And Vicky's all like scared it's gonna hit him, and it just comes to a halt right at his feet. So cool, dude.
Yeah,
Imagine being a kid in 1989 watching this movie. I would lose my mind.
Yeah, just after the actual chase scene when Batman's just driving Vicky to the Batcave and you just got the score like blaring and like you just see the reactions of Vicky and Batman kind of reacting to her. I'm like, it's it's so good. No dialogue needed. It's pure cinema. I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
God, this
that
music is so good, man.
the score's so good. I you noticed it at the very end too, where it just swells and it's kind of a like it builds and like, goes up to that iconic shot of Batman
Oh
standing.
yeah, with like the
Um,
bells chiming too. Yeah, it's great.
oh my god, unreal film score.
So
Um,
we haven't gotten into like Joker's actual well we got into his motive but his actual like I guess plan and he's
mhm.
poisoning like the makeup and healthcare products around Gotham. So he's like killed a ton of people this way just poisoning them, which that's a classic Joker thing, just killing people via poison. It's not the classic Joker gas or anything, but it's close enough.
Yeah, it is close enough, and I think it works for this. Obviously, we've seen, I think, just kind of cooler iterations of the Joker plot wise or theme wise since this. But for this being the first big take on and sort of darker, more serious take on Joker in live action, I think it works, and Nicholson sells the hell out of it. I do love um, how Bruce and Alfred are able to kind of figure it out. There's the line where he's like, "I think we need to go shopping,"
Yeah.
and then he's showing Vicky like how it works with the combinations, and he sends out the newsletter or whatever.
I feel like a lot of people have complained that Batman doesn't do detective work in this movie, but he's literally doing detective work over that. Like he's researching what products are being poisoned, and he explains to Vicky later on after he takes her to the Batcave. He's like, yeah, so one of these products alone isn't lethal, but like when you mix a certain one with another one, it becomes lethal. And I'm like, this is Batman doing detective work, people. I don't know what movie you've been watching, but he is a detective. Like Burton did not just forget that element of the character.
Yeah, it's clear right there, and I love it. He's like the only one who can figure that out, and Vicky's like impressed by it. It works. It's set up. He shows it off, and I like it. It's not as much detective stuff as we see in like the Batman, but that's a different movie. And what Burton did here, I think, works for the story. He got a lot of the character pretty right, and then also took some of his own sort of stylistic things, which become more prominent in returns. But I've never really gotten the like, oh my god, Burton doesn't understand the character of Batman. He doesn't have this. He doesn't do this. Like, I think he gets quite a bit of it right, and what he maybe doesn't in the eyes of some people, I think is still entertaining in his way of looking at this as a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess before we get on to the like what the only real problem I've always had, we can talk about the museum scene real quick because it's obviously a
Yeah,
classic, and I think the Party Man needle drop is one of the best needle drops in this movie.
it's maybe the best. I love that song. I
Because it
love
fits the scene
Joker.
so well. It's like that song was written specifically for this scene. And I think it 100% was because it's like referencing Joker specifically, obviously, but it's like referencing stuff that almost referencing stuff specifically that is happening in that scene when Joker's just like painting over everything.
Yeah. I love that scene. That was one of the scenes that stuck out to me the very first time I watched it. It just feels quintessential Joker. I love that he delivers the box to Vicky that gives her the gas mask. He's like, it says urgent, put me on right now, and the gas pours in, and then you get the needle drop. You get the dancing, the messing up all the iconic art. I love when Bob tries to ruin one of the pieces, and he's like, no, 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 I actually like that one. Leave that one alone.
And what doesn't Vicky like throw water in his face or something? And Joker's like, ah, my face, it's burning. And then he's like, poof, gotcha.
Yeah,
And I think that's the first
blast in
time
the
it's like
face. It's great.
properly revealed that like his actual when he's in actual skin, that's just makeup over because his skin was actually bleached.
Yeah, I think it's really cool how they do that. Like he's wearing skin makeup because his true skin is bleached. It's so cool. Great character design. I
Yeah.
love it. And yeah, the museum scene's a classic. Batman dropping in is awesome. To kind of save her because I love that how he realizes it is Alfred's like Vicky Miss Vale is waiting for you at the museum. He's like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, I like I was like,
I'm
all
not here
right.
today.
And then it's like, wait, what do you mean? He was just gonna
I'm
go
not
along
leaving
with it
her
at first.
today. Yeah. Uh,
And
and
then
then he obviously goes and saves her.
yeah, and Joker has the classic line of where does he get those wonderful toys?
Where does he get those wonderful toys? I love that. But yeah, that seems great. There's another interaction between those three too, where later on where it's Bruce instead of
Oh,
Batman with Vicky
yes.
and Joker crashes it. That has iconic lines. You get the "You want to get nuts" from Bruce, which is iconic
I like
and
how it just starts
shows
out like Bruce just calmly telling the story, and then he's like, "Come on, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts."
he
He
just
goes
like
from like
snaps. It's
1 to
crazy.
10 immediately.
Yeah, it takes Joker by surprise too. Um,
Ever dance with the devil in the
and
pale moonlight?
that's what I was just gonna say. That's where we get that line first, which leads to Bruce kind of realizing some things
He's like, "What did you
about the
just say?"
Joker. He's like, "What?" But yeah, I love the museum scene. Party Man is great. Prince, I mean, that was also Prince just in his like prime era. The '80s sort of belonged to him along with Michael Jackson and everything. So I've always found it cool that Prince is on this soundtrack for Batman. Like you said, it kind of shouldn't work, but it does. And yeah, it's great. But we can, I guess, do you want to get into the Joker, Jack Napier, Batman's origin tie-in? Because that's
Yeah, no,
obviously
yeah, that's
a
why.
unique thing about this.
Yeah, I don't love it, but I mean, I've
Hmm.
accepted it. The more times I've watched this, I'm like, I'm fine with it. Just this version of Batman, it's that version of Batman. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Joker being the one that killed the Waynes. I'm like, I, I, I don't think it takes anything away from this version, but like when you think about it too much, it's like, no, like the Joker Batman dynamic that is, it's not needed.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat where I think it's fine in a vacuum for this movie, but it's kind of twofold for me in like it not working, or at least me not loving it, because A, on like the Joker side, I love Joker and Batman's dynamic to not really be tied together by anything other than like their personalities, and they're just who they are perfect, like opposites, two sides of the same coin, like, and they just come across each other and are perfect for each other as hero and villain. And then on the other hand, I like Batman's origin to kind of be just this freak act of violence. And obviously like Joe Chill is who killed them in a lot of iterations, but I love when he doesn't get to find out who did it, and it's just this random act that could have happened to anyone, and it happened to him and set him on his entire journey. So I don't love it either, but I agree with you that I've kind of accepted it within the context of this film and this Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in the same boat there. It's probably like my least favorite element of the movie, but it's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah.
And okay, so there was a great moment when Batman takes Vicky to the Batcave. There's like they're talking about the Joker, and Batman's like he's psychotic, and Vicky's like, well, some people say the same thing about you.
Mm,
And Batman's like,
hmm.
whoa, calm yourself. And
Who
she's
says
like,
that?
well,
Yeah.
you're not exactly normal, are you? And then Batman has the best retort of, it's not exactly a normal world, is it?
Yeah.
I love that
That stuck
moment
out to
so
me.
much.
It's It's great because Vicky's right. He's not a normal person. Like, this is someone who dresses up like a bat and goes and takes care of crime, like takes crime into his own hands, works crazy hours like late at night, doesn't have a normal life at all. And she's kind of pointing that out. But Batman's response is true and just really cool. Like that, it's not a normal world.
Yeah.
And it's such a great moment.
And then there's another, it's an interaction between Alfred and Bruce in the Batcave. It's pretty brief, but Alfred doesn't get like a ton to do in this movie, but like what he does get to do kind of stands out. Like I think every
Hmm.
line he has is pretty important to either not really the plot so much, but absolutely Bruce's character. He has this line of, I have
Yeah.
no wish to fill my few remaining years grieving for the loss of old friends or their sons.
Or their son. Yeah. I That stuck out to me too. It kind of reminded me like a lot of newer Batman stuff or stuff after this has had that relationship between Alfred and Bruce, where like I know in The Batman with Robert Pattinson, there's moments where he's like, I don't care what happens to me, and Alfred's like worried about that and scared about that because Alfred still wants Bruce to live. Um, and so I love those moments where Alfred kind of provides a voice of reason for Bruce if he's kind of drifting a little bit. And this one was beautiful. I agree with you that Alfred doesn't get a ton to do in this movie. I much prefer when Alfred, well, not much prefer, but generally I like when Alfred's a little bit more involved, even like a little bit younger, like the military, ex-military side of that character that we've seen a lot, as opposed to like just an older butler. But the wisdom that he gives in this movie is great, and the performance I like a lot as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a bad Alfred. Like Michael Gal, or I think it's pronounced Gal. He's really good as
I
Alfred
think it's
in these movies.
Go. I don't
Go,
know.
maybe
Yeah,
whatever. Michael Go Gal, however you pronounce it. He's a great Alfred in all these movies.
he is.
Yeah. Then the finale, the big showdown, is the parade scene that eventually transitions into the cathedral. But yeah, so Joker lures Batman out. Well, first he's like, I took off my makeup. It's time you take off that mask. He's like, I'm gonna drop
Hmm.
$100 million on the citizens of Gotham. And he is gonna do that, but he's also gonna gas everyone.
Yeah, he'll make them rich right before he kills them all.
We'll give them a moment of happiness and then just take their life away.
Yeah, dude, he roasts them too. He's like, "I'm gonna put an end to your like." I don't remember exactly what he says, but he calls their lives like pointless, basically, as he's letting the gas fly. Like, geez, Joker.
The trust
I don't
needle
know,
drop is
man.
pretty memorable when Joker's just dancing on the parade blimp.
Yeah,
And
trust
then
sways.
when Batman comes in with the Batwing and he takes his balloons, and Joker's like, "My balloons."
He took
He
my
stole
balloon.
my balloons. I
He's
didn't
like
know he had one of
yelling at.
those things.
Yeah, he's yelling at Bob. He's like, "How does he take my balloons?" He's so mad about it, which I think is so in character.
It's so good, man.
Yeah,
I
it's
love it.
great.
There's so many like it's almost silly, but it just fits, especially like the more classic version of the Joker so well. I'm like, yeah, that is something the
Yeah.
Joker would get upset about, and just he killed his number one guy over that. He just like Bob done, and then he just shoots him.
Yeah, it works. It's great. And then I love the cathedral as like the final destination for this movie. It's so gothic. It fits Batman perfectly. The music is great here,
Do
and
you
I
also
I
kind of
love the
you also kind of think of like the last mission in Lego Batman when you watch this scene because
to
it's
the
like
top of the
it
tower. Yes,
yes, it's
yeah.
almost like a play-by-play of this scene.
It is. That's what I always think of. I remember when I watched because I had played the Lego games. I think before I had seen this movie. Um, and so I pointed out to my dad, who's also seen it, and I was like, "Dad, who I played the Lego games with as a kid," and I was like, "That's literally the Lego Batman mission." He's like, "Yeah, that's like probably what it's based off of." And so yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna bring it up if you didn't. It's cool.
No, I feel like we both played that game like a lot when we were growing up. Man, I want to play it again.
Oh,
I haven't
for
played it
sure.
in so long.
Dude, me too. It's been forever. I also love the moment when Joker and Vicky are at the bottom of the tower and he's radioing for the helicopter. And he's like, "Yep, I need transportation 5 minutes." And then he looks up at how tall the tower is and he goes, "Better make it 10 minutes."
Dude, Vicky is so weird in that scene. Like she's kissing up on like Joker's jacket and she's getting like
Well,
the purple
she's got to
fuzz in her
distract
mouth.
him, dude.
I know, but I'm like, ugh, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, it's gross. And she's like dancing with him all awkwardly. They do a good job at making Joker seem pretty creepy and her seem pretty uncomfortable with all of that.
And
Um,
then Batman's just like, excuse me, you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? So he's basically just revealing that
what a
he's Bruce
callback.
Wayne in that moment.
Yeah,
Well,
he
Joker
is.
doesn't
But
know.
I
He's
mean,
not aware of that. He's like, I tell that to all my victims. So he's probably already forgotten about Bruce.
yeah, but he is doing that. I think Bruce also doesn't think that Joker's going to be alive to tell anybody at the end of this in that moment. So,
Yeah, I feel
um,
like the reason Joker was made as the Wind Killer was mostly for this back and forth here, the you created me, I created you type thing.
right.
Because Joker's like, what are you talking about? You literally created me, and Batman's like, you created me first.
Hmm.
And I love the
Yeah,
moment of just Batman like just kind of welling on him, and the Joker just puts on a random pair of glasses, and he's like, "You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you?"
dude, it's so good. That whole thing at the top is great. The only thing I will say that I don't like love is for a final like showdown and it the lead up to it is just Batman climbing a bunch of stairs. It feels a little bit silly to me when I watch
Yeah, and
it.
he murdered I don't
Um
know how many guys going up those stairs because he threw
oh
at least
yeah.
one or two guys off.
Yep, one dude got like crushed by a bell, and then the bell stops the police from getting up there, which is a cool moment. But yeah, he kills a bunch of guys. But I don't know. It's like Batman. You have all these cool toys. Why are you're just taking the stairs? Like, come on. It
Yeah, you could
feels a
grapple
little
up
bit
there.
lame. Yeah, like what are we doing here, Batman? But I do think overall the confrontation is great, and they make good use of the like you were saying the Joker created him in the context of this story, and so for that I see why they did it. I love when they're Batman and Vicky are hanging off the edge, like Joker kind of gets the upper hand by throwing them off there, and then he just starts like taking out bricks one by one. He's like, or like the stone. He's like, they don't make these things as good as they used to.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of great Joker moments. Then I love that he's just got a I don't know when he had the time to design this helicopter, but he just got the Joker designed helicopter.
The Joker copter, bro. It's elite.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
I
it's
want to see
great.
that.
And
I
then
want to see that in a Batman movie someday. Just bring back just bring back villains having like vehicles designed after themselves.
it's so goofy, but I love it. They have a bunch of that in like the Lego games and stuff
I know, I
too.
love it so much. Like in Batman
Always
Returns,
makes
Penguins with the rubber duck. I love the rubber duck in that movie.
the rubber duck is sick. You can't hate on the rubber duck. Yeah, bring back comically hilarious villains having vehicles that are like designed right after them. Will it make a lot of sense? Probably not, but I don't really care. It's goofy and I like it.
I want 80s and
Um,
90s villains again, damn it.
Facts. But yeah, Joker almost gets away, and then Batman ties him to a big gargoyle statue using the grappling hook, and it proved to be too much for the Joker. He should have spent more time in the gym, man. He's got to work on his pulling strength. He would have survived.
Yeah, he would have ripped that gargoyle right off of its right off the building.
Yeah.
Only had more leg
Um,
strength.
but yeah, it's overall a pretty satisfying conclusion, I would say. I love the moment where Alfred picks Vicky up and he's like, Mr. Wayne's going to be a little bit late. And she's like, that doesn't surprise me at all. With a smile, it's great.
Yeah, so the end of this movie and the end of Batman Returns are almost parallel to each other too, because of course he picks Vicky up in this one and it like pans up to Batman. And in the next one he's
Hmm.
got Bruce and it pans up to Catwoman.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Burton
Oh
was
yeah, we
on the
get the introduction to
parallel.
the bat signal, of course, before that scene. Jim Gordon's just like, he gave
Right.
us a
Yeah.
signal, and then he lights it up. I'm like, yes, the bat signal.
Yeah. It's so cool. I just love how it looks in this movie. Maybe it's a little unrealistic, but it pierces the sky so well. It's like a sticker in the night
Yeah,
sky. It's awesome. And then yeah, like I was talking about, the Elfman score, maybe one of its best moments in this movie is at the end where it leads you up as the camera pans to Batman in the sky and then the credits roll.
yeah.
I
I'd say
feels
probably the
great.
Batmobile chase is the most standout, and then this is like probably a close second, the ending in terms of the score.
Yeah, they're both great moments. Love that we got the bat signal. Love how this movie ends. I don't really have a lot of problems with this movie. I mean, we've talked about a ton of the positives. I don't love the Joker connection to Batman's origin, and I just think at times, if you're maybe not as big of a fan or have as much nostalgia, it can be a slow moving film or one that there's some stuff that isn't crazy interesting. I feel like uh, some other Batman movies, Begin, Dark Knight, even the Batman, I would probably have over this one just because they did a little bit better of a job balancing like the Batman story. But for 1989 and looking at it as a Tim Burton movie and the first to really introduce a darker Batman and kickstart superhero movies, you can't not enjoy it, and I think it's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, definitely mine as well. I think it still holds up 35 years later. And I'm gonna keep
It
watching
does,
it
which
every year until it doesn't hold up, which I mean for me it's probably always gonna hold up.
yeah, I can't see at this point it like aging worse than it already has. Like you watch it, and I think a lot of that goes back to maybe the production design and just the look of this film because it feels totally like its own thing. Like you can tell when it was made, but I watch it and I'm just in Gotham City, and
Yeah.
I love that about it. I think Batman Returns adds to the look because it has the Christmas and snow vibes, but Burton's Gotham is still my favorite on-screen Gotham in terms of the look and the atmosphere. I think Matt Reeves did a really good job too, but it doesn't top this for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Burton's Gotham, still the best Gotham. I think it might even be better in Batman Returns just because the snow looks so good in that movie. It looks so
It
good.
looks great. Yeah.
But yeah, no, no.
So
Burton's
good.
Gotham is the best Gotham. Elfman score, the best Batman score. So, just for those reasons alone,
Yeah.
this movie's got to stand the test of time.
It is Michael Keaton. I feel like we almost didn't talk about him enough throughout this episode. I still love him as Bruce Wayne, as Batman. I think you can argue, still the best combination and mix of Bruce Wayne and Batman in live action that we've gotten. Um, Part of that might be, a little bit of bias just because he was the first live action Batman I watched, and like my parents both love him. But I think he's so great in this movie. Robert Pattinson, hopefully we get to, I mean, we are going to get to see more of him. It's just taking way longer than we would like, but I love him too. I'm excited to see where he goes. I watched Keaton and I'm still like, yeah, he might be my favorite live action Batman.
Yeah, I think he probably still is my favorite live action Batman.
He just brings this. I mean, the Bruce Wayne. It's a little bit more low key than something like Bale or even Affleck's feels at times, but I love it. He feels nerdy. He feels still cool though. Like he's got that suaveness and that he feels like a billionaire.
You would not
And
expect
then
that
his
guy to ever be
Batman.
Batman, though.
No, but I like that. Like he does a good
Yeah,
job
that's what I love about it.
at hiding his alter ego. And then his Batman is great. I love the costume. It's iconic. It is funny that he can't like he when he has to turn, he has to fully pivot his entire body at once. I think it looks goofy at a couple times in this movie. But I love the suit. I love his Batmobile, and his Batman voice is still maybe the best one out there.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's like the difference between his Batman voice and his Bruce Wayne voice is like pretty subtle, but you can tell there's a difference, and that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, there is a difference. I love it. Bale tried to do too much, man. That I know everyone brings that up,
Yeah, I
but
really like Bell and
bro had
Begins, and then like it just it just started, yeah, just gradually got worse through each movie.
yeah. So a whole two Batman actors have had throat cancer. Shout out Val Kilmer. Hope he's
Oh,
doing great. But
now I'm sad.
I know, me too. It is sad, but
Yo, Batman Forever turns 30 next year. We might talk about that movie next year.
oh my god, I gotta watch Batman Forever again. You're kidding me.
We did a commentary for it, so man, dude, that commentary we did with Darren, we did 4 years ago. That is pretty crazy.
Oh my god. Is that legit 4 years ago?
Yeah, because we did it for its 25th.
Jesus. Time flies.
Oh no.
Especially when you realize that this movie is 35. But yeah. I love this movie. It was fun to talk about it. And yeah, maybe we'll have to do Batman Forever next year. I know there's a lot of anniversaries this year that we still want to get to though.
Oh,
Notably
well, Batman Begins turns 20 next year.
Batman Begin turns 20. There's always Batman anniversaries, which
Yeah.
is awesome. I love that. We've got so much content from the character. As we should, because Batman's freaking awesome. I love Batman.
I love this movie and I love Batman and I love the Joker.
Yeah, that's I concur with that, and that's about the perfect summary for this episode. I don't know what we've got coming up in the future here. We Connor at some point is gonna trivia mastermind us, and we'll have to see who ends up with the belt.
We might
But
both be extremely rusty.
oh my god, dude, I'm so nervous. Like honestly, it's good he's taking his time because maybe I can get some of the skill back because I I don't know, but we've got that as a possibility. I know there's a lot of like 1994 is 30 years old now, so there's a bunch of great movies from that year we kind of want to talk about. Um, Different stuff going on, but always good to talk about Batman with you, man.
Yeah, always. And well, we'll figure out what to do next whenever we're
Yeah.
back. Hopefully it'll be before 3 weeks from now, but
Oh, I'm sure we can make that work. I will try my best to be available.
we'll make something
It's
happen. But
it's tough though. We will. We got it. I believe in us.
in the
All
meantime, you
right.
can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, at the Red Arrow on
Yeah.
YouTube. You can find some other DC content there. If you're a Batman fan, you should subscribe because I have like over 100 videos
He
on that
does. He
character.
does a lot. Yeah.
But I guess that's it. I guess we're gonna go back into hibernation now.
Woo! See ya, guys.